It's the time of the season when love runs high. In this time, give it to me easy and let me try with pleasured hands to take you in the sun to promised lands, to show you everyone. It's the time of the season for love.
The Odessey and Oracle anniversary. There's a new reissue, 50th reissue coming out of the album. There's this beautiful new coffee table book coming out commemorating the saga of this record, and you're out touring, playing the album in full. So, as I'm sure you're well rehearsed to do, this is one of the most mythic, baffling, epic stories in rock and roll history, this album. Walk us through the Odessey and Oracle story a bit, and what is it that's so unique about how this thing came together and came out in the world?
I think one of the most mystical things about it is that by the time the album was released, there was no band. And then it was actually, Time of the Season was actually a hit about 2 years later, in 1969. The album was released was recorded in 2000, 1967. And the single Time of the Season was a hit 2 years later. So there's a #1 hit single and there's no band. And I think that's always intrigued people. It intrigues me. So it's always intrigued people. There just seems to be a mystique about this album. And a lot of it's to do with the fact that there was no band when it was released.
And so how did it happen? I mean, you made this extraordinary record that eventually got recognized for what it was, but couldn't sustain as zombies to get it to the starting line.
We desperately wanted to make that album because we felt some of the singles leading up to that album, we were very frustrated with the production on it. And particularly Chris and I, who were writing the songs, desperately wanted to get something down that presented the songs in the way that we heard them. We had a bit of an old school producer, very fine musician, but we just didn't agree with what he was doing to a large degree. In the way that he was seeing the harmonies, for instance, we felt that there were things lacking. We thought some of the production was lacking a little bit in balls, it was just a bit light here and there. So we really wanted to get our own ideas about how our songs should sound. And we made the album, and the album we felt sounded great. It got some great reviews too, but it's just that nobody played it at the time. We were based very much in the UK. We had one influential DJ who loved us and loved the album, but by the time we were interviewed by him, a guy called Kenny Everett, he said, you guys are breaking up. And he said, the album's going to leave now. And we said, no, the first single's come out, which was Carousel 44, and it hadn't done anything. And he said, well, shouldn't you wait until the album comes out? But the thing was, commercially, some of the guys that weren't the writers in the band were relying on gig money. We were very much based in the UK, and we'd only ever had one hit in the UK. We had fewer hits in the UK than anywhere else in the world. And so the people that weren't getting writing income had no money. And our guitarist, Paul Atkinson, was getting married, actually to a New Yorker, someone called Molly Malloy, who was the choreographer and lead dancer on the Murray the K show, on the very first Brooklyn Fox show that we did in 1964. So the band broke up. And then, of course, there was this huge void, which was filled by other fake bands, some of which we managed to stop. I thought it was all rather amusing, actually. But we only learned a couple of years ago that one of these fake bands later turned out to be ZZ Top, which is
That is true.
really amused me.
That is true. That's not just an urban legend. That's
Frank
a
Beard
true
and
thing. Yeah.
Dusty made had an article and they admitted everything.
So it's, for those who don't know, it's first of all, so it wasn't frustration with it wasn't creative frustration. You felt like the album got to where you were trying to get to.
Yeah.
It was just commercial disappointment, and
And maybe we were just all tired as well. We'd been on the road continually for 3 years, and that might have blurred our vision somewhat. It seemed, I felt that album was the best that we could possibly do, and it was a commercial disaster. And so you start to think, well, I think that's the best we can do. And no one wants to know. Maybe it's time to move on. It wasn't a particularly dramatic thing. We just thought perhaps it's time to move on and to do new projects. And it's easy with hindsight to look back and say, well, maybe things could have been different. But at the time, it seemed the natural thing to do.
I think a couple of the guys felt a bit battered, particularly by the business, and thought, you know, I'm not sure that I think I want to rest from this. But Chris and I really wanted to keep going, and we immediately started to form Argent, and we put a production deal together, and actually started working after about 6 months. Colin felt like he was ready after a rest to come back into the business, and we started to plan a solo album for Colin, which in the UK and in Europe had a huge success, and it had a very, very big hit record on it, a Denny Lane song called Say You Don't Mind. So by the time the season was a hit, and #1 in Cashbox, and in Billboard it was 2 or 3 as well. So it was almost #1, you know, universally, and it became #1 in almost every country in the world apart from the UK, where it became very well known, but it was never a hit. By that time, we'd moved on artistically, and we weren't ready to step back 2 years, as it felt to us. You know, we were well on the path of doing these things, and I must say, Chris and I were in the States when Time of Season was #1, talking to Clive Davis and negotiating our production deal for Argent and for Colin, and it was the most, you know, wonderful set of circumstances, because
Walk in with
with a #1
holding
record.
it, yeah. So the album has come to be recognised as, you know, one of the Rolling Stone 500 greatest albums of all time, tops any of the sort of Mojo greatest British albums lists, all of these things. When did you become aware that there was a rediscovery, reassessment of Odessey and Oracle?
I think it was at least 10 years afterwards when we started seeing people doing wonderful reviews and also great artists citing it as an influence, which, you know, I think that's so encouraging for us to see that. Paul Weller was one of the first ones in the UK, Tom Petty over here.
Very unlikely artist, Cole, because when Paul was #1 with the Jam in the UK, which was a real sort of punk-informed, you know, high energy stuff, for him then to quote it as his favourite album was a surprise.
I know, absolutely. But it was a gradual thing. It started about 10 years afterwards, and it's just gone on and on. And the sales, as you know, year on year, it sells more. So to me, I have to say, it's a bit of a mystery, but it's a lovely mystery. I'm not arguing.
I remember having a conversation with Chris White. He called me after about 10 years, you know, and he said, you know, Rod, that because his kids were in sort of your equivalent to, you know, what's high school here and going on to college sort of thing, and he said, do you realise it's becoming quite a cult album in, you know, in the universities? And I said, oh yeah, Chris, and I put the phone down and I said to my wife, no, it's not. but it was, you know, I think amazing.
So tell a bit about you've been touring the record now. This is the sort of final go round, and you got back together, everybody that there was to get back together to play this. What was you know, obviously the inspiration was this sort of growing momentum, but what tipped you over into saying we should take this out and now continue to take it out?
I think it's interest from the public, really, because Rod and I, generally speaking, we don't like to look backwards, and that sounds a bit weird when we're here celebrating an album from 50 years ago, but normally we're always, you know, we're writing for the next album now. But there's so much interest in this album, we thought, okay, this is the 50th anniversary of it being recorded in Abbey Road. One last time, we'll do it. But as far as we're concerned, I think I speak for both of us, this is it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I would say that some of it was down to Chris White, because when Colin and I, in a very natural way, came to start playing zombie stuff again, and we hadn't planned to go back on the road, but it just happened naturally. Chris used to come along and see us, and he loved what we were doing, but he said, do you know what, this was in 2007, he said, in a year's time, it's going to be 40 years since we actually released Odessey and Oracle. He said, why don't we do the album from start to finish with all the original remaining guys. You know.
Not all of whom were even still playing, right?
No, Chris hadn't played in anger in 40 years.
He hadn't picked up a bass guitar since 1967. So this is 10 years ago, and then we played. That was a 40th anniversary. I don't think he's picked up a bass guitar since then. So he arrives on Saturday or Sunday. We're a little bit nervous about whether he's been practicing or not.
Well, because of that, I mean, in 2008, we committed to doing this, and we said to Chris, well, if we are going to do it, there's only one way of doing it, and that's to reproduce every single note that was on the original album, which wasn't easy because we'd followed the Beatles into Abbey Road, and they'd forced the Boffins in Abbey Road to provide a technical advance which enabled more than the 4 tracks that everyone was using at the time. Because Brian Wilson over here had access to an 8-track machine, we didn't have any of those in the UK. So anyway, they got this together for the Beatles, and it was really hard. And we followed them in, and they were telling us about it. Jeff Emerick and Peter Vince were telling us about this, and we said, oh, we'll have some of that. And they went, oh my God, here we go again. But in fact, what it meant was that we would add overdubbed harmonies, we would add an overdubbed keyboard, all very quickly, because we didn't have much money. The songs were typically done in 3-hour sessions. But it meant that some of the songs on the album were impossible to reproduce without having 2 keyboards, without having extra vocals, etc. So when we did the thing in the UK, that was one thing, because everyone was living there, apart from Darian Sahanagi, who came over from the Brian Wilson.
Right, who was with Brian, yeah.
He was with Brian, and he was a huge fan of Odessey, and he was a great person to have, because he knows the keyboard parts for a start better than I do, and so it's absolutely fantastic to have him do all that. But that was one thing, getting everyone basically together from the UK. Our American management were there. We thought that was going to be the only time that we did it, and one day it turned into 3 because it was sold out, but we thought that was it. But we did do a couple of spasmodic reprises the following year in the UK, but we thought there's no way we can bring this over to the US because it's just going to be too expensive to bring an operation of that magnitude over here. But in the end, our American management found a way of doing it, and they did it beautifully, you know. And last year we tried it out on a few gigs, and it worked. So we said, okay, we're very proud of the album still, and we love playing it, but we don't want to be doing this for the rest of our lives. And the thing is, we thought, let's make it a celebratory year. Let's do a long tour of the US and Canada, which is what we're going to do. Let's do European festivals. Let's do a UK tour. And our American management said, let's do the Far East, and we said no. But then after this year, the way we see it, we're going to draw a line under it and say, it's been fantastic, and thank you very much, and we're still proud of it, and we hope it gets played loads, and we'll still do some of the tracks from the album, the ones that 5 people can do, but the ones that require this super production, you know, that's going to be it.
So there's everything wrapped up in the 50th and the tour and everything else, and I want to be cognizant of time, but I would be remiss not to also just mention the new album. Not quite as new, I guess we're a year or so in at this point, but a fantastic record, Still Got That Hunger, which I mentioned is a favorite in my household, a favorite of my teenage son, who listens to this record non-stop. So, you know, talk a bit about that new music, about that record, and about still making. You said you're already writing for the next one, and where things are moving from present forward.
There's 2 things that I'd love to say. First of all, we decided to go back to capture the way of recording in the 60s. I mean, we've been through, you know, many ways of recording and embracing new technology, etc., etc. But we thought, do you know what? We want to make an album where we get a producer, and we got a great producer, Chris Potter, who wanted to work with us, go into a studio, play live in the way we had to, because there was no other way of doing it when you've got 4 tracks. And we thought what we'll do is we'll capture a performance. We'll try in a few hours, maybe 3, and it was typically about 3 hours actually. We'll rehearse We're going.
This is the key, is that if you're going to record like this, you've got to rehearse extensively before you go in. So when we go into the studio, we're not looking for an arrangement, we're not looking for a treatment for this song. We know the key.
We're not writing in the studio.
We're just looking for a performance.
And we thought, okay, we'll get Colin to sing a guide, just like he always used to, and we'll do guide solos, but we'll all play at once, minimal overdubs. And then the following week, so we'll record the album basically over a week, and then in the following week, we'll revisit the lead vocals, we'll revisit the solos, and we'll do backing harmonies. It worked so well. And we started off, and we said to Chris Potter, we're not going to use click tracks, we're not going to use sync codes or anything. And he said, oh, I'm not sure about that. He said, let's just do that for safety. I said, no, we just want to be free to play in the way that we used to. And we recorded like that, and it worked so well for us that Colin's guide vocals all became lead vocals. We didn't even replace any of the solos.
It was all just
it was captured. It was a question of capturing the performance in the way old-fashioned recording had to be in the old days. And we loved doing it like that. And within 2 weeks, apart from the mixing, the album was done. We did extensively concentrate on the backing vocals and harmonies the following week, but that was it really. And so that was one thing about the album. I mean, the other thing, of course, was that was a much more expensive way to record. So we had to raise the money, and via pledge, we had a wonderful army of fans who gave us the money to make the album in the way that we wanted to make it. And during the American tour, we were knocked out one day to get a call from Billboard, and they said, we just have to tell you that for the first time in 50 years as the Zombies, you've made the top 100 album sales. And that was the most exciting thing that we could hear, because that is still what energises us. And the feeling that we can relate to a current generation like your son, who's a teenager, with not only the Odessey and Oracle things that get played everywhere, but with some of the new material as well, is, for me, that is the most exciting thing I can have.
Well, the results still got that hunger are tremendous. You guys will hear some in a bit. I'm over time. I'm over my time, so let's take some questions from you guys. Well, we can do so right here.
Good morning. It's nice to see some other musicians up early in the morning. Those 3 arduous years of touring as Zombies and years of touring as Argent, who was your favorite band to share the stage with? Who would you like to play as an opening act or as a...
That's an interesting thought. If I can just make an admission, this is a terrible thing to say, but I never watch the opening band because if they're good, it's intimidating, and if they're bad, it's depressing. So I tend to not watch the opening band, but you watch them, don't you?
I do, yeah. Oh my goodness, there've been so many over so many years. Do you know what? I remember the first time in the 70s sharing a stage with 2 progressive bands actually, and the first time I shared a stage with Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I found it very, very exciting actually, and equivalently with Yes, and I thought that for me, particularly the early period of Yes, when I first saw them, I actually saw them in a show that had Janis Joplin headlining, and they were becoming, which is a strange pairing really.
Quite a bill.
It's quite a bill, yeah. But I was, knocked sideways by their early stuff, and I love seeing that. And it's one of the joys of my life that recently, and I mean sadly we've lost Keith obviously, but he said some nice things about my playing, which was the most flattering thing for me. And Rick Wakeman has recently said some nice things, particularly about the solo and Hold Your Head Up. So, I mean, out of sharing the stage with millions of bands, in a very different way, I remember being on tour with Jeff Beck around the time of Blow by Blow, and with Max Middleton on keyboards and everything, and I loved watching them. But there've just been so many.
Can do one more over here.
Yeah, I got a 2-part question. Good to see you guys again. What was it like getting involved with the film Bunny Lake is Missing? I always was curious about that movie.
Well, it was chaos actually. Absolute chaos. Also, Preminger is a very hard taskmaster. He was tough guy and very aggressive to his crew, the people he was working with. He would try to be aggressive with us as well, but it didn't really work with us because he meant not, we weren't relying on him for our wage packets. He was a tough guy, and one of the awkward things was they wanted 3 new songs written and recorded in a very short period of time. So we were a bit pushed, weren't we, to find these 3 songs. They were written in 10 days and recorded in 10 days.
Yeah, they turned out well.
Yeah, they were okay, but he was very demanding. And then I think we spent 2 days doing the filming, and if you see the clip on the film, it's about 10 seconds or something.
There was one funny personal memory I've got from that. As Colin so rightly said, the great thing with us that our careers didn't depend on us at all, and we weren't in the film industry, so we just didn't care. And he was really aggressive and rude, as Colin said. And there was one particular moment that I'll remember all my life, because I was on stage and they were filming the shot of my full face that went on to be on the screen, during Bunny Becky's Missing. And he started shouting at me. I remember standing up and saying, "Don't ever talk to me like that again. If you talk to me like that, I'm going." And all the guys and the sort of actors went, but he just laughed, he just smiled, and he never did. And from that moment onwards, he was absolutely fine.
I was always curious about that, but Just Out of Reach is one of my favorite songs.
Absolutely, Colin's song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I
We
wrote
still
that
do it
song.
on stage.
Yeah, I know, it's a great song.
I wrote that really quickly, and that was the second song I ever wrote. So I was getting really inspired by Rod and Chris writing. I didn't know they could write songs until Rod wrote She's Not There. It really surprised me. And I thought, well, I'd really love to try and do this, and that was the second song I ever wrote. And it's a good fun song.
Great
good
song.
But also I get the chance to tell my family that I shared the screen with Laurence Olivier.
We shared billing, Colin. We had equal
We had equal billing with him as well. Although I'm calling a blink like this. He takes one look at me and he walks across the room. I'm on a TV screen.
Don't blame him.
He takes one look at me and he turns the TV off. So Larry and I, we were close, but it was a very short relationship.
And I also wanted to ask about the concept. So you consider Odessey and Oracle a concept album? So there's mixed songs in there. I didn't think so, but people put
No,
it.
we never did. We just felt that it was a collection of songs. But you know what? I think that was a pretty magical time for music, both in pop music and in every other kind of music that was going on at the time. And I think that we were affected by what maybe people call zeitgeist or something. But it was a moment in time, and what was going on because of everything, with the youth culture movement that was actually making a difference. The fact that people were aware to some degree of what was going on in Vietnam, for instance, for a start, because of TV coverage, which might not have been all enveloping, but at the same time it gave you an idea, and people were standing up and making their feelings known, and it was making a difference in the world. So it felt very empowering, and it felt like a time when the boundaries of music were widening at a great rate, and anything seemed possible, and the public were willing to embrace this feeling of adventure in music, and if it was pretty cutting edge and avant-garde, the public were there embracing it, which I don't think is the case now.
Well, that's why 50 years on, it's still talked about that
Well,
time and music and everything.
Yeah. So it was infused with a feeling which sort of glued the songs together, I think.
It's great having you guys back again.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you all. Sit tight because we're going to reset the stage so they can come back out and play some music for you. Again, so much 50th anniversary year Odessey and Oracle, new digipack reissue of the album, the Odessey Coffee Table book out next week, I believe. Tour going really everywhere there is to go, except for the Far East. And still the new album still got that hunger. It remains hot enough off the presses.
And do check out the book, because we've only just seen it.
Yeah.
We knew it was being put together. Cindy from our management company had a large input into it, and BMG did as well, and they've done the most fantastic job. And we've got endorsements in there from Brian Wilson, Graham Nash, and oh God, we go on and on. We're so knocked out with it.
too many good things. Thank you guys all for staying with us. Stay for a moment, and we'll be back with more music, from the Zombies.
Woo! 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 Thank you, thank you. What a treat, what a treat. What a treat. What a treat.
No one told me about how many people cry, but it's too late to say I'm sorry. How would I know what you're